This is Heliox, where evidence meets empathy. Independent, moderated, timely, deep, gentle, clinical, global, and community conversations about things that matter. Breathe easy, we go deep and lightly surface the big ideas. All right, so welcome to another deep dive, everybody. Today, we're going to put you in the shoes of Mark Carney.
Oh.
You know, former Bank of Canada governor.
Right.
Brexit, what would you call it?
Firefighter.
Yeah, firefighter. He's facing a choice. Jump into politics or stay out. It's all happening in Canada right now.
Wow.
We're going to unpack it, though, and we have some interesting sources. Political analysis, economic reports, even a Daily Show interview with Jon Stewart.
Oh, wow. With Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Now, you might be thinking, Canadian politics, why should I care?
Right.
Trust me, it's about way more than our neighbors to the north. It's global economics, climate change. What happens when America plays by its own rules again?
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation, especially with what Canada's facing right now. Trudeau's resignation wasn't just him calling it quits, you know?
Yeah.
It really shows how deep these problems are, and people want a new direction.
Yeah, it's like a perfect storm, you know? Economic turmoil, cost of living is crazy, sounds familiar. And there's this threat of a trade war with the U.S. hanging over everything.
And don't forget the wildfires, those devastating wildfires. I mean, we're talking so intense that if they were a country, Canada would be the fourth largest emitter of greenhouse gases.
Wow.
It's like, hello, wake up. Climate change is real.
Yeah, it's like a movie plot. Canada in crisis, and here comes Mark Carney.
He's the guy, right?
Yeah, the guy steered Canada through 2008, tackled Brexit's fallout, and now he's thinking about leading them through this.
It's like that captain, the what do you call it?
The seasoned captain?
Yeah, seasoned captain.
Yeah.
Gets called back to the ship right in the middle of a hurricane.
Totally.
Carney's playing that outsider card for sure, emphasizing all that international experience, that economic know-how. And he's really positioning himself as, well, the guy with the answers.
Yeah.
Making a contrast with those politicians, you know.
Totally.
The establishment.
He's not afraid to, shake things up a bit either. Oh, right.
Remember he just casually announced that he might run on The Daily Show?
I forgot about that.
It's not exactly your typical campaign launch.
No, not at all. Really clever, though, to get to a different audience, you know? Signal that he's not playing by the old rules. It's like he's shaking things up from the very beginning.
Exactly. Speaking of shaking things up, though, we can't ignore the elephant in the room. Maybe it's a moose in this case.
Right.
Trump's America.
Right.
Our sources say America's back to its transactional diplomacy.
Oh, boy.
Canada is feeling the heat, literally, with those wildfires.
Figuratively, too.
Yeah. This is not just about tariffs and trade deals, though, right?
No, it's a clash between thinking short-term and thinking about values, long-term values. You got Trump focused on winning now, making deals.
Yeah.
And Canada, they're more about building up those relationships, working toward goals everyone shares.
It's really interesting when you think about it, though. 50% of U.S. fuel comes from Canada. Imagine the power they have in a trade war. It's true.
Yeah.
It shows you, even in a world with these giants, you know, smaller players, they can still have some serious leverage.
That's the question, though. How do you use that power the right way? Especially when you're dealing with, the U.S. under this administration.
But that is a question.
$1 billion question. That's what makes Carney's potential leadership so interesting. You know, on The Daily Show, he didn't just talk about the economy. He talked about building a Canada that can thrive in this crazy world.
It's a vision that goes beyond just money, you know? It's about tackling climate change, but doing it in a way that doesn't leave regular Canadians behind.
It's something we can all relate to. Who isn't feeling the squeeze? You know, the economy, climate anxiety.
It speaks to what we're all worried about. But can he really do it? You know?
Yeah, good question. Well, before we get too excited about Carney for Prime Minister,
Wow.
Let's talk about his opponent, Pierre Poilievre.
Okay.
He's the Conservative Party leader and basically the opposite of Carney.
Oh, wow. So, if Carney's the doctor, right?
Yeah.
He carefully figures out what's wrong, then gives you the medicine. Poilievre's the guy who gives you the same thing no matter what's wrong.
Okay, I see. And what our sources tell us is Poilievre's a career politician, leans towards, what's it called?
Market fundamentalism?
Yeah, that. He basically thinks the free market can solve everything, even climate change.
That's pretty different from Carney's vision.
It's funny, you know, on The Daily Show, Jon Stewart actually said that Poilievre looks like a villain from The Karate Kid.
Oh, no.
Not exactly the image you want for a leader, right? But joking aside, it sets up a really interesting dynamic.
Yeah, it's a real classic showdown. You got the experienced outsider versus the guy who's been doing politics forever.
Right. Who do you trust to lead you through the rough times?
Yeah.
The one who promises big changes or the one you kind of already know?
And remember, this isn't just some small town election, right? What Canada does, it affects everyone. Yeah. They're making choices. Well, the whole world's kind of uncertain. America's backing off as the leader. Climate change is getting worse. And the economy feels like, I don't know.
A roller coaster.
Yeah, like it's about to go off the rails.
Totally. These are issues every leader has to deal with no matter what.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like trying to steer a ship in a storm while everyone on board is arguing and fighting. But let's get into the specifics. What's really driving this political drama in Canada?
Well, our sources paint a picture of, well, a country that's struggling. Inflation's up, wages are stuck, and it costs a fortune just to live.
Yeah.
Regular Canadians are working harder but feeling like they're getting nowhere.
It's like that here, too, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And then you add a potential trade war with the U.S. on top of that.
Oof, yeah. That's a recipe for people to get angry. And that's where Poilievre sees his chance, right? He taps into that feeling that the system is rigged. But here's the thing that I just keep thinking about. He says he'll bring back those manufacturing jobs, that he'll boost the economy by cutting regulations and taxes. Does that even work anymore in this global world? Or is it just something that sounds good in a campaign speech?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? Is he offering a solution or just something that makes people feel better?
Yeah.
His supporters say, let the free market work. Everyone will benefit. But his critics, including Carney, they say that's an old way of thinking.
Yeah.
That it ignores how complicated the global economy really is.
Makes sense.
They point to his lack of experience on the world stage, like he's never really dealt with other countries.
So it's like he's offering a solution from the past for a problem we're facing now.
Exactly. And speaking of problems we're facing now, what about climate change? Those wildfires. That's a pretty clear sign this isn't some far-off threat.
It's hitting people's lives and their wallets right now.
Yeah.
And it's like Canada is one of the biggest suppliers of oil and gas to the U.S.
Right.
They're part of the problem they're trying to fix. It's like a doctor who smokes a pack a day telling you that smoking is bad.
That's a good analogy. Yeah. But it really highlights how tough this is for Canada.
Yeah.
How do you go green without putting people out of work, especially in places that rely on fossil fuels?
It's a tricky balance. Carney gets that, but he wants to be more aggressive about climate action. He says Canada needs to lead the world in clean energy.
Right.
Not just for the environment, but for the economy, too. He's basically saying climate action is a chance for new ideas and growth, not a burden.
And he actually has specific plans, which is good.
Oh, yeah.
In that Daily Show interview.
Yeah.
He talked about investing in renewable energy, creating jobs in those fields, and putting tariffs on imports from countries that aren't doing their part to cut emissions.
Wow.
He's saying, we can't afford to ignore this anymore.
That's different from what we hear from Poilievre. He doesn't seem to think it's that urgent. He wants to protect jobs in oil and gas. Even suggests maybe the science about climate change isn't settled.
It's the classic battle between making money now versus what's sustainable for the future. It's a debate happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Do you take the money now, even if it hurts the planet later? Or do you invest in a better future, even if it means making tough choices right now?
It's a hard question, and there's no easy answer. But it's one that everyone in Canada, every voter is going to have to think about. And whatever happens in their election, it's going to affect us all.
Absolutely. What happens in Canada doesn't stay in Canada.
Yeah.
The decisions they make on climate, trade, even their relationship with the U.S., those ripple effects will be felt globally.
You know, as we're talking about all this, there's something about Carney that's really interesting. It's not just the economics and banking stuff. He was also head of Lloyd's of London.
Right, the insurance hub.
Exactly. And that gives him a whole different view on climate change. Think about it. Insurers are the ones who really understand risk, and they've been warning us about climate change forever.
Yeah, they see it firsthand, don't they?
They see those costs, the extreme weather events, and they have to change their whole game plan because of it.
That makes sense. So it's not just like the tree huggers who are worried.
Right. It's hitting businesses where it hurts their profits. And Carney gets that. Maybe that's why he talks about climate action like it's about being smart with money. about managing risk. It could be a way to get through to people who don't usually care about the environment. You know what I mean?
It's definitely smart. It shows how he can connect things that seem totally different. He's not just saying climate change is bad, do something. He's saying this is going to mess up our economy if we don't act now.
Exactly. He's talking the language of the environmentalists and the business people at the same time, trying to get everyone on the same page. But at the end of the day, it's a choice for Canadians, for all of us. Do we stick with what we know, even if it might be riskier in the long run? Or do we choose something that might be better for the planet, even if it means things are tough for a while?
It's the big question, isn't it? The one we're all facing. And what happens in Canada's election might show us which way the world's going.
Yeah.
Will they go with Carney's vision, a Canada that's ready for the future, taking on climate change? Or will they go with Poilievre's way, the old way, focused on growing the economy and maybe not doing so much about the climate?
As we're wrapping up, I keep coming back to this. Can one person, even someone like Carney, really change things when these global forces are so huge? Or are we just hoping for the best when the world feels so chaotic? What do you think?
That's the big question. And honestly, there's no easy answer. But I think what we see with Carney is that leadership does matter.
Yeah.
The choices we make, all of us, they have an effect. Even if we can't fix everything ourselves, we can at least try to make things better.
It's a good reminder that we're not just watching this happen. We're all part of it. And if you're interested in this stuff, check out the sources we talked about. It's a fascinating look at Canadian politics, the global economy, and all the challenges we're facing. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.